Did you know that 85% of all jobs are filled through networking? So I was super surprised by this number, and the more that I've been sharing it with other professionals, the more surprised they are, but I've also noticed that they're a little disappointed. And when I dug into this, I realized that most people think that all networking has to happen in person. And believe me, I love in-person networking events, but they're not always super successful. There was one study that looked at 100 different professionals. They put them into a real networking event, and they tracked how successful they were at networking. They found that most of the people in that event didn't really network at all. In fact, more than half of them just talked to people that they already knew. Now, there was one person who actually was successful at networking. Can you guess who it was? The bartender. The bartender is the one who actually made the most connections purely because all 100 people wanted some kind of drink. What I wanted to share in this video were some ideas for how to network online. You don't actually have to go to real networking events and network. In fact, you're more likely to talk to people you know at a real event. There are a lot of other strategies we can use to network in a digital world to build your virtual network. The very first thing I want to do before I give you any of these steps is for you to think about your networking goal. I want you to get really clear on what it is you want from this online networking. So if you were to just think about it, why do you want to online network? What is your goal? Is your goal to get a new job, get advice, be social, build your network, meet new people, expand your knowledge? All of those are great networking goals. Take them and let's get into our steps on how to be a great virtual networker. Step number 1, start with warm calls, not cold calls. The biggest mistake that people make when thinking about networking is they start with the cold calls, reaching out to people that they don't know. That is so intimidating. Oh my gosh, I always hate reaching out to people I don't know first. You might not realize it, but you already have a network. People you used to go to school with, people you used to go to camp with, your family members, your old friends, your old neighbors, people you used to work with. I want you to begin to take stock of your existing network. There's a lot of power there. Specifically, I'm going to give you a couple of prompts to begin to think about people you know who you want to reach out to. I always get great advice from, I love speaking to, a role model I have is, I wish I could be closer to, someone who is doing great in their professional life is. So think of these people, and these are the first people I want you to reach out to. 3 to 7 people who you already feel inspired by, who you already have had good advice from. I want you to reach out to them and share your networking goal. Ask for help, ask for advice, ask to meet their network. This is how we begin to warm up those networking juices. A lot of the times when I'm working with my students, just this exercise is enough. They don't have to go on to steps 2 through 10. They can just reach out to their existing network and begin to tell people their goal. So go do that right now. Step number 2, join or create an online mastermind. I love mastermind groups. I can note that I had tipping points in my career once I created masterminds. And the reason for this is because a lot of the time in networking, our contacts are shallow. You reach out occasionally, you see them at a friend's house occasionally, you occasionally read their newsfeed or their LinkedIn posts. A deeper connection, though, comes from masterminds. So masterminds are when you bring together like-minded people who you respect to keep each other accountable. So I highly recommend the best mastermind groups are between 3 and 6 people. And these can be people in your industry if you want to share industry knowledge, or they can simply be people that you respect and admire. In fact, sometimes that's even more helpful. With this mastermind group, your goal is to develop deep connections. And it's actually better to do this online. Video calls, group chats, group texts, even a shared Facebook group or LinkedIn group, where you begin to cultivate deeper connections. And what I would love for you to do with these 3 to 6 people is reach out to them, tell them your goal, and ask them if you want to keep goals accountable, if you want to help each other achieve your goals. And then I want you to get together on a regular schedule. This could be once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month, at the most once a quarter, at the farthest distance once a quarter. And I want you to ask yourself 3 questions in the group. This is what I do with all my mastermind groups, and I've had many over the years. 1, what was your biggest success this month? It's really nice to celebrate successes with people who you respect. Second, what was my biggest challenge this month? And this one should take the longest because this is where you can deep dive, help each other, give advice, problem solve with people you respect. And lastly, how can we help each other? Is there a person we can connect? Is there an article we can send? Is there a resume that we can review? Having this group of people is like having a professional or social board of directors or board of advisors, and it allows you to create very deep connections with just a few people. And in a way, you're combining your networks. Instead of you having to go find 100 new contacts, you can have a mastermind with 3 to 6 people, and they each have 100 contacts, and they will connect you to the right people. And that's the most important thing about masterminds is they're collaborative. You're willing to share resources and ideas and people so that you can have your network of 100, they can have their network of 100, and you can introduce each other to the right people at the right time. Number 3, introduce your networks. When people think about networking, they often think about building, right? They go out and try to get a contact and bring them into their network. And all they're doing is trying to accumulate, right? Like a lot of networking is about gathering business cards, gathering contact names, gathering followers on LinkedIn. But I actually think a better way to think about connecting and building connections is connecting people you already know. So helping people build their networks. I found that I've been able to build my network by taking 2 people that I already know, and I know they should know each other. And I make a really deep, really authentic connection between the 2 of them. I found that then they do the same thing for me. So instead of me trying to go cold call and find random people to meet, when I make connections that I think are beneficial, those connections are so grateful for that connection. They say, hey, Vanessa, I think you should meet someone in my network. So some of my best connections have happened from the reciprocity effect by connecting people who need to meet each other. And those people are grateful, so then they connect me with someone that they should meet too. So for the next few weeks, just think about connecting your network, just sending out good vibes, good offers, and reciprocity that hopefully people will be so grateful for those connections, they then connect you as well. Step number 4, be the tortoise, not the hare. Did you notice how I said in the last step that it might take a few weeks or a few months for that reciprocity to come back to you? That is the whole step of number 4, is sometimes the best connections, the deepest connections, happen slowly. It's not about reaching out with a bunch of requests and hoping they come back immediately. It's about building deeper long-term relationships. Creating a mastermind with 3 to 6 people you already know might not feel like building your network at first, but after a couple of meetings, after they get to know your goals and who you are, that's when they can say, you know what, there is someone in my network I think you should meet. I'm going to reach out to them for you. So it's a slow build for your network so that you're building deeper, longer lasting connections. Be the tortoise, not the hare. Number 5, send a surprise in snail mail. This one's really simple, but people always forget it. We love to get mail. We love it. It breaks the pattern. Think about it this way. A VIP or a recruiter or an influencer that you know, they get probably hundreds, if not thousands of messages and emails and pings a day. So reaching out to them on LinkedIn, no matter how great the message is crafted, it's more likely to go forgotten or to get archived. Whereas snail mail, if you can get their address, never goes ignored. I love printing out postcards and sending them to VIPs. I have postcards with funny sayings. I have postcards that are funny for the holidays. I also love getting those daily calendars with comics on them. And sometimes I'll tear off a comic, write a note on the back, and send it to a VIP. They are always so honored, delighted, and surprised to get this little comic that I clearly just tore out for them. Typically, there are 365 days in a year. I can send over 200 of those comics to someone that is in my mind. I found this is a way more authentic, easier, fulfilling way than just pinging someone on LinkedIn or sending an email, hey, checking in. It's my way of maintaining my network. So think if there is something that you could send in snail mail to keep your connections fresh. Number 6, join a high-stakes activity. There's this really interesting research that shows that the more we do something with someone, the more connected we feel. In fact, they've even found that adrenaline-producing activities also build connections. So what I want you to think about is there something that you can do with your connections? Or can you go do an activity and try to build your connections from that activity? This could be anything from hiking or learning to roller skate or learning to surf, but also playing online video games, doing online gambling together, doing a lottery together, doing a sweepstakes together. together, any kind of activity that you can do with someone is going to build deeper and more lasting connections. And the reason for this is because of dopamine. So I love dopamine. I have it on my wall. Dopamine is the chemical of excitement and pleasure. And networking is typically devoid of any and all dopamine. We get super bored. We have the same conversations over and over again. We get the same kind of pitch email over and over again. If you're doing an activity with someone, it shakes out that routine, and dopamine makes you more memorable. So think to yourself, is there an activity, whether that's online or in person, that we can do to hopefully deepen our connections? I highly recommend this is the way that we bridge the gap between real life and online life. If you've been interacting with someone online and you feel like it's getting stale or predictable, your next step is to bridge the gap. Step number 7, bridge the gap. That brings me to this step. There comes a point in every relationship where to go deep, you have to be in real life, or you have to change the mode of communication. So let's say that you've been interacting with someone purely through LinkedIn messages. The next step for you would be to try to have a phone call, and then maybe a video call, and then maybe in person. So what I want you to do here is think about where can you level up the mode of communication, from chat to phone, phone to video, video to in person. If you can do that, that's going to really help also deepen the relationship. Step number 8, network online with social media. A big mistake that I see people make when trying to network is they try to be on every single social network. They go to LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok. What I want you to do is dominate. Pick one social network that you are going to dominate and own. That's because if you go deeper, you're more likely to make deeper connections, as opposed to trying to smatter all of your efforts across multiple networks. This also means that you can leverage the different benefits of each network. So for example, on LinkedIn, there are groups and messaging features and your profile and endorsements and skills. If you wanted to really dominate LinkedIn, you could go and write endorsements for every single person you used to work with, hoping that they will remember working with you and then maybe write an endorsement back for you. Or if you're on Instagram, there is no endorsements, there's no skills, but you can follow people's feeds, you can message and you can share. This is when maybe on Instagram, you make sure that you always share the posts that are relevant from someone with your network, or you like and add a really, really positive comment to their feed. That way you're dominating each network for the tools that that network has. That's a way that you're also going to make deeper connections with other people who love that network. Step number 9, build your following. There's another approach to online networking that I really like. This has been my approach to networking. It's being a curator. So the standard traditional approach to networking is that you reach out to lots of people, deepen the connection, and then hopefully there's reciprocity there. Another way to network, which is the way that I do it as a recovering awkward person, is to be a curator. This is when I try to gather the best, most interesting tips and content and tricks from around the web, and I put it into my feeds. My way of networking is bringing the best to my people. So I might have far less interactions back and forth with people, but they know that I am working and trying my hardest to bring them the best content that's right to their feed. So curation is your other opportunity for networking. Can you be someone who's a resource in your industry? Can you go gather tips and tricks and resources and articles so that your feed becomes a place for your followers? That's a secret way of networking called curation. Step number 10, swipe right to find your network. You might also try a standard networking app. So instead of cold calling, which I find really challenging, you'll notice I don't mention cold calling at all in this video. I mention warm calling and building masterminds and creating activities. But if you're going to cold call, I would highly recommend using an app that is meant for cold calling. In other words, you want to meet other people who are open to cold calls. The worst is when you're cold calling someone who doesn't like cold calls. For example, I'm not big into cold calls. When people reach out to me and I don't know them, it makes me feel uncomfortable, a little bit awkward, and so I go back to my curation. But there are some people who love to meet new people. They love to take cold calls. And for this, I would highly recommend an app. So of course, there's all the LinkedIn tools out there, but there's also an app called Shaper and Invitely that you can use to try to find interesting, relevant professionals in your area, and they are open to those cold calls. Here's my final networking challenge. Just start. The biggest hurdle we have is our own nerves. We worry, what's someone going to think of us if we reach out, or do we have anything valuable to say? Start with just those 3 to 5 people. Heck, even start with one person. Write them in a glowing endorsement on LinkedIn and see what happens. Just starting with a couple people you're comfortable with is going to help build your confidence so you can begin to reach out to people who truly should know you.
Are you living up to your full potential? Do you want more? I would love to help you. Get started with my free training and learn more about People School today. Visit scienceofpeople.com/pschool.
Did you like this video? Please give this video a like, hit the bell, subscribe to our channel. I would love to keep curating and bringing more of these tips to you.